Pepsid Complete knows that food is one of the best parts of game day. That is, until heartburn strikes. Thankfully, just one chewable tablet of Pepsid Complete provides dual-action heartburn relief with an antacid that starts working instantly and an acid reducer that lasts all day. So you can stay focused on that second helping of chili without worrying about heartburn. All day based on 8-hour symptom relief studies during the day. Use product only as directed.
This episode is brought to you by Abercrombie. There's nothing better than the perfect jean and going out top combo, or an outfit that perfectly matches your plans. Abercrombie's relaxed jean goes with every occasion. Date nights with something lace, or daytime with a cozy sweater. And their barrel jean will surprise you. It's the trend that will become a staple in your wardrobe. Abercrombie denim comes in tons of rises, fits, and washes. Find your perfect pair online or in store.
Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
You are now listening to the Dynasty Rewind.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dynasty Rewind. I'm your host, Michael Bauer, the best in the business. Once again, back in business. Joined, as always, by my faithful co-host, Nate, the Mountain Man, Christian. Nate, you're looking a little grizzled over there with the beard and the flannel, but how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm staying warm. I was out on Broad Street last night celebrating the Eagles' victory in Philadelphia with some friends. So congratulations, Mike.
Thank you.
You know, congratulations on the Super Bowl. I know it's a big deal for you guys.
A lot of people have been saying congratulations to me. This will come as a shocker. I had no hand in the Eagles' victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. Great Super Bowl, great season. Yeah, now it's over. Now it's rookie time. I mean, it's been rookie time for a little bit for us, but, I mean, there's no more distracting NFL football. We're working up to the draft, Nate.
Yep.
I'm excited. So today we're going to talk about my favorite position. If you've been a listener of the show for a while, you know I love the tight end position. So we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about our early offseason rookie tight end rankings. Nate's going to surprise some people with this list, I think. Nate, why don't you kick it off? We're going to go 5-1 like we've been doing the past 2 weeks. So Nate, let's kick it off for you. Who is your number 5 tight end right now? And again, so everyone knows, this will be subject to change. Obviously, a lot of things are going to happen between now and the draft. But who do you have for us right now?
All right. So I kind of have a top 4, and then I get into the rest of the tight ends. And I struggled with who to put here at 5. There's going to be someone that is going to obviously not be on my top 5 that I really was thinking about putting here. But I just had this guy graded a little bit higher. And this is Elijah Arroyo, tight end from Miami. All right. And Arroyo is extremely athletic, very athletic. I loved watching what he could do after the catch. Not necessarily a ton of agility and stop-start ability, but he's a tight end. You know, we're not necessarily expecting that. But athletically, he looks really good. He can run fast. He can get down the field. He can press the defense deep as well. If given space to run, he's going to test the safeties. So I like what he brought to the table, especially good size too. He wasn't used a ton at Miami, but the problem with that was injuries. So, there is some medical, not a red flag, but just, he suffered a couple different injuries throughout his college career that really held him back. Coming into this season, he had only had 11 receptions. So, this is a little bit of a one-hit wonder. But I think he could be developed with his athleticism. And when he actually had a really good quarterback this year in Cam Ward, we saw 37 receptions, 590 yards, 7 touchdowns. He averaged 16.9 yards per catch, Mike. This guy's explosive. He's got the athletic ability. And, most of his touchdowns were not red zone. They were long plays. So if you're looking for a tight end who could be explosive, there's a couple in this class, but Elijah Arroyo is certainly one of the best. He's got that big playability for sure. So coming in right now is my tight end 5.
It's the wrong Miami tight end. It's not Cam McCormick, but we'll let that one slide. In case you're wondering why I'm talking about Cam McCormick, we had a tracker for him on our Patreon. If you want to hear our bonus episodes, we will be recording one after this. Patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. Come on in and check it out a week for free on me. You won't regret it. Group chat, or the Discord chat, I should say, is awesome. So, all right, Elijah Arroyo. And Elijah Arroyo, 9.1 yak rec in his last year. Nate, 8.8 career yak rec. So Nate's talking about big plays. This guy can definitely do that. 590 yards his senior season. So I'm excited to dive into him. My number 5 tight end, a lot of people are going to look at his stats this last year and go, Mike, what are you talking about? But look, I've been talking about this guy for how long, Nate? Like 2 years?
Probably 3 years.
Probably 3 years. Finished at Georgia. First 4 seasons at Stanford. Stanford film is hard to watch, but he was the highlight. That is current Georgia tight end Benjamin Urasek. He is a natural receiver with short hands. Very good separation. One of the things I kind of make this comp, it reminds me a little bit of JT Sanders, where people are like, we don't have to cover this guy. And he makes you pay in the middle of the field. But he separates very well, dangerous in the middle of the field. He is an above average blocker. I know that doesn't count on the fantasy score sheet, but it does keep these players on the field.
Yep.
So being on the field is how you have a chance to get points. Great ball tracking. And I did notice at times, more than just your short intermediate route runner, they did stretch the field with him at times. And the stats lie for this guy. Wasn't utilized as much as Georgia as he should have been, but now there was Oscar Delp in this past season, and we've seen.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't understand it, because the whole consensus when Urasek transferred from Stanford to Georgia, and I'm sure he thought the same thing. Not saying he was going to be the next Brock Bowers, but seeing how Brock Bowers was used in Georgia's offense, I'm sure he thought that even if he just got half of that, him and Oscar Delp split it, he'd have a fantastic season. Don't understand what's going on there. And hey, speaking of Miami, you were talking about Elijah Arroyo, Carson Beck now in Miami from Georgia. Something to keep an eye on there. 2026 quarterback class is going to get pretty interesting. Ben Urasek's best year, though, not as good as Elijah Arroyo's. 444 yards, again, at Stanford. So, grain of salt, Stanford not been a very top-notch program for a few years. I do think that this is a professional tight end that we're seeing right here in Ben Urasek. Probably right now, at the earliest, a late day 2 pick, could slide into day 3. He's going to start off as a team's number 2 tight end, could ascend. We've seen stranger things happen. Look, Tucker Kraft was an afterthought because Luke Musgrave drafted ahead of him. He outplayed him. Could be a similar path to relevancy for Ben Urasek. So he is my number 5. Nate, let's kick it to your number 4.
All right, my number 4 is Gunnar Helm, tight end for Texas. Coming in at 6'5", about 250 pounds. He's got good size, good NFL size. So I love to see that about a tight end. And then he's got good hands, very reliable. Looking at his stats, he only had 2 drops his entire career. 179 catches. He wasn't used super often at Texas the first couple of years, but this past year he had 60 receptions for 786 yards, 7 touchdowns. He is reliable. One of the more reliable tight ends that I watched when I was going through a lot of these tight ends and doing our scouting. Really good concentration when the ball is in the air. There was multiple times where the ball was tipped, something happened, and he was able to complete the catch, make it look easy, get 2 hands on the ball. So I love the ball tracking ability, the ability to adjust to the ball. That's important to see. Like I said, really secure hands, more athletic than you think. Okay, so the first time I turned on the Gunnar Helm film, I was like, okay, this guy's big, he's got good hands, he's just kind of a reliable security blanket. But he actually offers some ability after the catch to go get those extra yards. And he can speed up a little bit faster than you probably thought he could. He'll catch the ball on one of those comeback routes, and then he'll actually, turn upfield, kind of make a little U-turn and get past the defender, gain an extra 5 or 6 yards. So I was impressed to see that as well. He's got some room to grow still. Definitely an inline tight end. That's where he was used most of the time, 72.7% of the time, according to PFF. So this is not a guy that's going to be a pure pass-catching tight end at the next level. He's going to play all different phases of that tight end role. But he's going to be someone that can kind of plug and play as a tight end too, pretty immediately. And then, as you said, we see these guys elevate all the time from tight end 2 to tight end 1 of a team. And as soon as they get that target share, anything can happen, especially for fantasy football. So Gunnar Helm is someone I'm keeping my eyes on. Currently happens the tight end 4 because of that athleticism. If he continues to grow, then I think that he could become into a very reliable tight end at the next level. So right now, excited to see where he goes. I think he's a day 2 pick, certainly. I think he's got that enough talent and production that he showed on film this year. So excited to watch Gunnar Helm, currently my tight end 4.
786 yards his senior year, Nate.
Pretty good.
Impressive. I do want to say one thing real quick about tight ends too. And, a lot of this fantasy football is statistics driven. The One Eagles podcast that I listen to, if you're an Eagles fan, Eagle Eye with Ruben Frank and Dave Zangaro, I've mentioned it before. One of the things that Ruben Frank said that kind of changed my perspective on how tight ends get looked at. Now we're going back a ways. I was not that old then, but there is a tight end named Keith Jackson, and he played at Oklahoma. He was drafted in 1988. He had 62 career receptions in 4 seasons. So when he was drafted by the Eagles, a lot of people were like, what are they doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then he set the rookie tight end reception record with 81 receptions in 1988. So it just shows that a lot of times in the college game, the tight end position is just utilized differently. So now that is starting to change a little bit as we're moving forward and progressing forward. So it's going to be interesting to see. Just one thing I wanted to mention there. Don't just look at the stats. And that's why you especially have to consider that when we go to my number 4 tight end, and that is Michigan tight end Coleston Loveland, who I think was kind of a victim of Michigan's scheme. The way they used him was a lot of intermediate screen, comeback routes, very close to the line of scrimmage, but he is dynamic enough where that doesn't have to be his game at the next level. He can stretch the field. He's just an overall physical player that refuses to go down on initial contact. And he's very fast and slippery. Yeah. For a guy his size, he's 6'5", 245 pounds. So he's a pretty big dude. Separates well, but also very, very strong in traffic as well. And, this past season, 582 yards, not his best season. He had 649 the year before, but Michigan's quarterback situation, not as stable this past year as the year before when J.J. McCarthy was there. So they didn't really have a revolving door. I believe there were some injuries going on there.
They just couldn't find anyone, really worth their salt. They had Orgy, who was there for, they thought they could develop, but he couldn't really, get the passing down. And then they had Moore, who was the passing quarterback, but really couldn't do much more. No pun intended. So, they were back and forth all year with their quarterbacks.
But it's Michigan. They're a big program in the Big Ten. They're going to get their quarterback situation figured out. I have no problem with that. I saw him being really good in traffic. Everything I watched, only a 20% contested catch percentage in his last season. Overall for his career, 40%. So I don't know, the cut-ups I was looking at, maybe it didn't show all of those, but what I saw, very good in traffic. So, Nate, why don't we go to, it looks like our number 3 tight end. We're going to share that one. So let's talk about it.
All right. Yeah, we both have this guy at tight end 3. I loved watching his film, and this is Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor from LSU. His dad is Jason Taylor.
Yes.
So he's got the NFL bloodlines that the NFL loves. That's definitely going to help him out. But regardless of his last name, this guy is athletic. This guy is very athletic. I thought he was very quick off the line. And for a big guy, too, he's 6'5", 255 is what he's listed at. He looks bigger than some of these other guys we talked about already. Mason Taylor, definitely thick, okay? So he's a good blocker because of that. And the athleticism at that size was really impressive for me. And this is a guy who also impressed at the Senior Bowl. He didn't even play in the game because he did so well during the week that he didn't need to play in the game. I thought he was a smooth route runner, considering once again how big he is. I love seeing these big guys move easy, positions himself really well in contested catch situations. Another guy that played pretty often in line, but he did also play 43% of his snaps in the slot. Majority of his snaps were in line, but kind of 50-50 between in line and slot. So that shows good versatility. We don't love guys for fantasy football who are extremely in-line tight ends. We don't usually, see the target share go to those guys as much of guys who can move around the line of scrimmage, can be used in the slot. Sometimes you see these guys get used out wide. The guy that we have at tight end 1, we both have the same tight end 1. We'll get to that in a minute. But he played all over the place. And that's something we'll talk about with his versatility. But Mason Taylor, very natural with how he moved. I liked, that athleticism. Keep going back to the athleticism because at the tight end position, the athleticism matters so much. And maybe I see a little bit of Tucker Kraft in Mason Taylor, though I think Tucker Kraft might be a little bit smaller. But that athleticism at that large size is really impressive. And when you talk about, how he catches the ball, he's secure, doesn't have a lot of drops in his career, and put up good numbers as a true freshman at LSU, 38 receptions, 414 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So, I love seeing a guy that can come in, make plays right away. Had a good career at LSU. Now moving on, top 3 tight end for me, tight end 3 right now. Mike, what do you want to add?
He's my tight end 3 as well. For the record, Mason Taylor and Tucker Kraft are the same height. Tucker Kraft is 4 pounds heavier, according to Pro.
We'll see what the combine brings. We might get the same.
That is true. That the collegiate measurements, they're all over the place. Yeah. Guys shrink and grow within the next couple months here, so it's going to be interesting. And one thing that I noticed that really stood out to me the most is he just looks like a professional tight end. Everything I see him do really well. I noticed that LSU used him on a bunch of screens, and he takes a short screen and he turns it into not always a big gain, but a pass behind the line of scrimmage. If you get tackled right away, it's -2, -3, and it's an 8-yard gain. So he really just knows how to evade defenders. He has great vision when he's running with the ball in his hands. He's extremely elusive for a guy his size, and he gets open in traffic. Another guy that just seems to get forgotten about, or he has an ability to get lost in zone coverage. And I think it's just fantastic. And you could tell, like Nate said, the professional bloodlines. I understand that his dad was a defensive end. And for those of you who don't remember Jason Taylor, he was a fantastic defensive end, predominantly for the Miami Dolphins. This guy is a pro. And look, I understand the LSU tight end nepotism here. I don't want to hear anything about Thaddeus Moss.
Oh, man, throwback.
Yeah, you're welcome for that, everybody. But Mason Taylor is heads and shoulders better than Thaddeus Moss was. Thaddeus Moss was slow and sluggish. Mason Taylor is anything but that. I really like this guy. There's a possibility he creeps up the list for me. I want to see, the combine, obviously the draft, and see how things fall out there. But Mason Taylor, great hands too. I'm a big fan. And you know what? Mason Taylor's last year at LSU, 546 yards. What about the YAC rec? Not impressive, 4.6, but a career of 5.4. 50% catch percentage, contested catch percentage. Oh, Nate. Kind of like that.
Yeah.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car right in your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
To realize the future America needs, we understand what's needed from us. To face each threat head on. We've earned our place in the fight for our nation's future. We are Marines. We were made for this.
All right, Nate, let's go to your number 2 tight end. Who do you have for us?
Yeah, you already talked about him. I'm a little disappointed that you have him so low, but I know you're disappointed in me as well with my rankings, so we'll get there.
Well, we have something to discuss. We'll get there in a few minutes.
But Coleston Loveland is my tight end too. I love what I've seen from Loveland over the past 2 years. Watching his tape with JJ McCarthy is much more exciting. And I like that tape a lot more because you can really see that Loveland kind of looks like just a big wide receiver out there. His receiving ability, it's very natural. It's very smooth for him, very comfortable. He looks like a big-bodied wide receiver playing tight end. He's got good feet. He's able to drop his hips at the top of his routes, use his feet well and break down, create separation that way. He's got strong hands. He's always getting 2 hands on the ball, looking comfortable catching outside of his frames as well, and very athletic. This guy's a little bit thinner than, Mason Taylor. He's kind of leaner, and that's why I'm saying he looks more like a wide receiver, playing tight end. But that athleticism is really there as well. It doesn't really get a lot of opportunities for yards after the catch this past year with their quarterback situation. But if you go back and watch the 23 film, you see that he's able to create a lot of yards after the catch when he's got a good quarterback that's, throwing him open, giving the ball into space. And he was really, a chain mover for Michigan in the both past 2 years. This is a guy that was very reliable on third down. JJ McCarthy put up one of the best seasons ever for a quarterback on third down, and Coleston Loveland was a huge part of that. Michigan has not had really good wide receivers over the past couple of years. Going back to, I guess, Nico Collins is the last time they had a good wide receiver down there.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones, maybe. I don't know.
He wasn't bad, yeah.
But Coleston Loveland's definitely been, the main weapon for their passing game of the past 2 years, and he's handled it really, really well. This is also a guy that has lined up in a multitude of spots, both in line, out wide, in the slot, moving around in motion. So versatile. This is the player that I'm really excited about for fantasy football because this is the true receiving threat at the tight end position. I think that Coleston Loveland is the best receiver at the tight end position in this class. Just like overall receiving ability, ball tracking, body control, what he brings to the table as a receiver. I think he probably does the best in this class.
All right. Interesting. Let's go to my number 2. That is Bowling Green tight end Harold Fannin Jr. I'm sure if you're on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, you've heard a lot about Harold Fannin Jr. You want to talk about versatility. Harold Fannin Jr. has got that in droves. And this last season, I know I said not to check the stats only for tight ends, but this is impressive for a collegiate tight end. 1,555 yards. He averaged 13.3 yards per reception, 10 touchdowns. He runs the ball as well. He can run any route, great hands. Now, my only knock on him is I think he is fast enough, but he does not have elite speed. There were times where I'd see MAC defensive backs chase him down. So that's just one issue. And look, his best game of the season was against, I just had it, Arkansas State in his bowl game. Nate, 17 catches, 213 yards, and 1 touchdown. And you're going to say, oh, well, Mike, Arkansas State, whatever. Okay. Against Penn State, 11 for 137 and 1. The next week against Texas A&M, 8 for 145 and 1. Then against Old Dominion, okay, it's Old Dominion, but still 12 for 193 and 2 touchdowns. And then multiple other times that season, he's going over 100 yards per game. So he's just fantastic. I think he'd be good in a system where he could be used at times at fullback.
Okay.
Kind of like an H-back type guy there. I want to see him go somewhere that is going to utilize his versatility. Let him run the ball a little bit. Let him catch the ball out of the backfield. Line him up in line, line him up out wide, split him out a little bit. Use that versatility. But Nate, we do have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Why is Harold Fannin Jr. not in your top 5? What does he or does he not have to not garner some thoughts on this list here?
Yeah, when I said that I have my top 4, and then I was struggling with my 5 and 6. I have Fannin and Arroyo pretty similar. And I very easily could have put Fannin at 5 and left off Arroyo. And especially because with the injuries that he's had throughout his college career, only having one big year this past year, it's easy to put Fannin up there over him. But I knew you weren't going to talk about Arroyo. I knew I had a chance to talk about him because I do think that we need to, talk about him with his upside. But for Fannin, for me, he comes in a little small, 6'3", 230 pounds. I don't love that size. It's a little bit of a tweener. And, coming from Bowling Green to the NFL, you don't have the size. I don't think he has the athleticism as well. Okay. So those things are pretty big holdups for me. I do think that he could still develop into a good tight end at the next level, but I think it's going to take some time. I don't think he's a plug-and-play player from where he's at right now. And now he did have a very good game against Penn State in the competitive game. So we did see him play well against top talent in college. But, he has a lot of manufactured touches, I think, on that offense. They ran their offense through him. A lot of screens where he was able to create yards after the catch. He's lined up in a bunch of different places. I did like the versatility. He was used at fullback. He was in the backfield. He was used in a ton of different ways. So I do like Harold Fannin, but I don't love the size. I don't love the athleticism. I don't love the jumping up from Bowling Green. His blocking is not great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great, and it was often against lesser competition. So those are kind of my worries with Harold Fannin Jr. Okay. And I think the stats are really, really impressive. I mean, I don't think I've seen anyone ever catch 117 balls for 1,500 yards at the tight end position in college. So that's really impressive. But I'm not going to fall in love with the stats and put him higher than I feel like I should rank him. And, someone might say, 6'3", 230, 240 pounds, whatever it is. Evan Ingram is 6'3", but Evan Ingram is much more athletic than Harold Fannin Jr. And, when you don't have that size, you don't have the athleticism, I think especially at the tight end position can be really difficult. And the NFL doesn't take guys like this and manufacture touches for them their rookie year, to make sure they get involved with the offense. They have to prove themselves. So I just worry about the transition to the pros. I think he could still develop into a good tight end at the next level. But I think this is, and a lot of our tight ends take 2 or 3 years. I think for me, Fannin's someone that's going to take 2 or 3 years to develop. And I think these other guys that have ahead of him could kind of hit the ground running a bit quicker.
Want to throw back here real quick? I got one for you. I think Harold Fannin could be everything we were hoping Kylan Granson could be.
Kylan Granson. I was thinking, Dayton's own Adam Troutman, who caught almost 1,000 receiving yards, and hasn't really done anything. So,
well, here's something that's probably never been said on this podcast before, but hey, Bowling Green has harder competition than Dayton. So
it's true. It's true. So
I don't know. It's interesting for me. The reason I have him this high, the versatility. You could put him pretty much anywhere. Probably not a quarterback, but yeah, I love what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I understand that. And Mike, maybe you're not going to put Harold Fannin at quarterback, but our tight end one did play some quarterback this year.
He did. I believe he was a quarterback in high school, if memory serves.
He had a couple nice throws. I watched him.
Let's talk about our tight end one.
Yeah. Tyler Warren, yes. Penn State's own. Michael, I know you're excited about another Penn State tight end looking like a top dog in the NFL. And some people have said that maybe Tyler Warren's greatest strength is the fact that Brock Bowers was just drafted last year and had the rookie season that he had. Don't expect Tyler Warren to beat Brock Bowers.
That's a great point. But I will say in this class, this is the closest thing you'll get
It
to a
is.
Brock Bowers.
And especially when you talk about some guy you can run your entire offense through. You're talking about Harold Fannin being versatile. There's no one in this class except for Travis Hunter, who's obviously very well known for his versatility.
Right.
I don't think there's any other player that is more versatile than Tyler Warren. And you could argue that Tyler Warren's more versatile than Travis Hunter because Tyler Warren had snaps out wide, in the slot, in line, in the backfield, at quarterback, at offensive line. And not just like a tight end at the end of the offensive line, actually offensive line, one time being center against USC where he snapped the ball, decided to run a seam, and then caught a touchdown. After snapping the ball to the quarterback, the quarterback threw it back to him for a touchdown. I mean, I've never seen a player get used in so many different ways than the offensive coordinator for Penn State, Andy Kotelnicki, I believe is his name.
It is.
The way that he used Tyler Warren this year was just wild to me. Brock Bowers is someone that we saw get used in a ton of different ways at Georgia while he was there. He wasn't even used as many different ways as Tyler Warren was used at Penn State. And I know NFL teams are going to love that versatility, love that physicality he brings. He plays, a little bit with an edge. He's a powerful runner after the catch. He's going to bring contact to defenders, good and willing blocker from the backfield, from inline as well. And you talk about a guy that catches the ball really, really well. Great body control, very aggressive at the catch point, comes down with contested catches all the time. I loved watching Tyler Warren. It's probably the most fun tight end film I maybe have watched. And, Brock Bowers obviously was really fun, but Tyler Warren, he's a really fun player to watch. Had 104 receptions, 1,200 receiving yards. So this is another guy, anytime you see a tight end break 1,000 yards in college, that is really, really impressive. So we do have a pretty good class here, Mike. And I think Tyler Warren definitely spearheads the class.
We'll say part of the reason he was so productive this year was Penn State's wide receiver room as a whole.
Yeah.
It's not very good. Although with incoming transfers, it looks to be getting better. Obviously, that won't affect Tyler Warren. He's going to
last year, though. So
we'll see. But some cool things about Tyler Warren. Yeah, 1,200 yards receiving, 8 touchdown receptions. So nothing crazy there, but 3 of 6 passing for 35 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty cool. And 26 carries for 218 yards and 4 touchdowns. So They used him all over the place. And again, not the next Brock Bowers, but the closest thing you're going to get in this class by all means. Another guy, great in traffic with strong hands. We talked about the versatility, very fast after the catch. The one thing I will say about him, I do think as a runner with the ball in his hands, he's more physical after the catch than Coleston Loveland.
Yeah.
And could definitely stretch the field as well. The only real gaffe I saw from Tyler Warren this year was in the Big Ten championship game. Drew Aller, and look, the ball was a little bit overthrown from Drew Aller, but Tyler Warren pretty much had it right in his hands and he just dropped it. So not saying that would have changed the outcome of the game, but that was really the only miscue that he had this season as a whole, in my opinion. So Tyler Warren, our tight end 1. Let's round it back up for you guys, okay? At number 5, Nate had Miami's Elijah Arroyo. Number 5, I had Georgia tight end Ben Urasek. Nate had number 4, Texas tight end Gunnar Helm. I had Michigan tight end Coleston Loveland. Number 3, we both had LSU tight end Mason Taylor. Number 2, you had Coleston Loveland, and I had Bowling Green tight end Harold Fannin Jr. at number 2. And number 1, we both had Tyler Warren from Penn State. So, Nate, do you have any honorable mentions that you would like to discuss here?
I'd like to mention Luke Lakey, coming from Iowa.
Is it Lakey or Lachey? I've heard
Lachey, we're the comments are going to tell us. The comments always tell us. I said Jalen Noel last week, and someone commented that it's Noel, like Hole, but with an N. So Jalen Noel. So now I know.
Please notice this, people. We are from the East Coast, and pronouncing people's names not our specialty in this part of the country. Especially me.
Probably not. We just kind of go with whatever works, and then
yes.
Devon A. Chan changed his name like 3 different times while we were scouting him. So we figured that one out eventually.
Yes.
So we get there. If you let us know, we'll figure it out. But Luke L. from Iowa, Jake Brenningstool from Clemson. That's someone else I want to mention as someone to keep an eye on. And Oronde Gadsden II from Syracuse. He's going to be an interesting guy to keep an eye on because he's tight end, but he's 6'5", 215 pounds. So he's really like a big wide receiver who has played that big slot position for Syracuse over the past couple of years. He's put together some good receiving numbers while he's been there. But looking at him moving into the NFL at that size, you're not going to be able to play tight end with 215 pounds on your frame. So what happens with him? Does he end up just being a tweener, or is he able to make some noise? So Gadsden, someone else I want to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, I had Luke Lachey, Leaky, whatever his name is. I like him a lot. Very physical, athletic guy, but a lot of injuries in his career. So it's just kind of one thing. There's another guy too, but I think he's going back. I'm having a hard time finding some info on him, and that's Bryson Nesbitt from North Carolina. He's been pretty productive. You don't have him checked off on our prospect spreadsheet. I couldn't find anything on him. So I don't know if he's coming out this year. Keep your eye open for him. If not, then watch him next season at North Carolina. It's going to be interesting, but that's all I have.
Also, one other guy, Terrence Ferguson from Oregon, is someone we should keep an eye on as well.
Is he related to Jake Ferguson?
I don't believe so.
Okay. It's just not a very
But when we comp him to Jake Ferguson, it's not because of the last name.
Easy comp. Just straight up, boom, done. Nate, do we have anything else we would like to discuss before we head out for this lovely evening?
I think we're good. I'm kind of excited about this tight end class.
Me too.
We got some good players in there, and we got some good sleepers, I think, as well. So
yeah, we do. And obviously we're going to dive into this class a little bit more. This is just our preliminary top 5. So if there's anyone that you think we missed, or anyone that you think we should pay attention to that we haven't mentioned, by all means, please drop it down in the comments below. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can comment on individual podcast episodes. Say, hey, Mike, you need to watch. Insert player's name here. So until next week, everyone, for Nate, I'm Mike. Thank you for listening.